Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Astros, and I'm here to talk about Game 73 of the regular season, where the Astros lose 11-1 to the New York Mets. And after 4 seasons, or 3 and some change seasons, the Astros have finally earned the dubious honor of the floor video. I've done a few of these. I believe I've done them exclusively for the Jets, actually. I think I've done a Rangers one, maybe 2 down here. But the Astros have avoided it to this point. Usually their videos are me standing and screaming when I'm particularly upset or what have you. But that's the thing. The Astros have usually made me upset. Right? Angry is usually the emotion I feel. You look at the real big oof losses. It's always frustration that we feel. Game 4 against the Braves really comes to mind. Game 1 or 3 last year against the Phillies comes to mind. I virtually felt nothing in 2020 because, what could you feel in 2020? That team had no right even making it to a Game 7 against the Tampa Bay Rays. But that's beside the point. We're talking about the current Astros. And the current Astros, they lost 11-1 to the New York Mets. They have lost the homestand. Maybe you take the last 2 against the Mets. Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't put money on it. I really could see them getting swept. You might say, Weston, it's 1 game against the Mets. Why are you down there? I saw one comment saying that you can't live loss to loss or win to win, game to game with the Astros. And I haven't. I've really tried not to. I'm not down here at the floor because of 1 game against the Mets in June. I'm here because of the season at large. I believe they've lost 13 of 15, maybe 13 to 16, something to that equivalent. They've lost a lot recently. But the main crux of what brings me down here is that you entered this 9-game stretch against 3 bad teams. 2 bad teams and the Reds, who might be getting hot by now. Side note, Votto homered and had 2 RBI single tonight. Votto still bangs, ladies and gentlemen, but that's not even my team. That's not even our team. I'm talking about the Astros. You enter a 9-game stretch against the Nationals for 3, the Reds for 3, and the Mets for 3. All of them, except for the Reds, who were struggling, but all of whom entered below 500. And I think a lot of us really saw that as the get-right stretch on the timeline. You know, there's been a lot of ups and downs. Injuries have started to pile. But hey, you have a 9-game stretch in Minute Maid Park against 3 below-average teams. Now, you might say, well, Wes, the Reds that are, surging. Overall, at large, subpar. They, at best, will take 4 of the 9. At best. And it's not just that, it's the fashion of which they've done it. I want to say they've allowed, 20 runs in the past 3 games. More than that. 10, good lord. 30 runs in 3 games. "30 runs in 3 games. Can we just take a moment for that? The offense was dead tonight. You had a Yainer Diaz home run. Which, by the way, what the hell? Why was Yainer Diaz DHing in this game for Hunter Brown, who he has been... If you don't, everyone tweeted it, everyone posted it on Instagram. You've seen the difference in the Hunter Brown ERA for Yainer versus Maldonado. It was over a run and a half. And that's not counting the runs tonight. I don't know what that move was. And now we're going to go to that topic. I think I need to touch on it. Don't fire Dusty Baker. That's a dumb idea. That's a dumb idea. And I, honest to God, think that if that's the move from Crane or Dana Brown, whoever would be making that call, I think you'd lose the locker room if you did that right now. The team likes Dusty Baker. The players like and love Dusty Baker. And I'm not going to say that Dusty Baker has managed well this season, because I don't think he particularly has. But I think you're an idiot if you think he is the only problem on this team. The players themselves, and the injuries, more so, are the problems. It's those two. If you said, Weston, list in order It's bad offseason, which really should take the bulk of it. The majority of the blame should go on Crane, if we're being honest. Because he, instead of keeping James Click, which I thought would have been the right move, doesn't do that, makes multiple moves in the offseason without a general manager, instead has Bagwell playing this zombie GM, and they make the calls together. Then brings in Dana Brown to do virtually nothing in the offseason and basically just sit there going, yes, team good. And hopefully he will be active at the deadline. I don't think you can't make any assessment on Dana Brown this season, by the way, until the deadline comes. The blame should be on Crane. Then I would say the injuries, because injuries, they're a weird thing, because on one hand, they happen to every team. And I'm not saying the Astros should go cry injury, because that would be stupid. Everyone has them. But the Astros, over the past few years, have been pretty blessed with injuries. They haven't really gotten them. Or when they have, they've sort of had that warning, and they've known they're not going to have said player for a while or longer. Right? You go into 2021 knowing you weren't going to have Verlander. You went into 2022 knowing that for a while in it, you were not going to have Lance McCullers Jr. You've known beforehand that you're going to have those injuries. Now this season, it's been a nightmare with injuries. McCullers we thought was going to be here in late May at the worst. Now he's done for the year and some of next year. You lost Urquidy and Garcia in back-to-back games out of the blue. And I've heard nothing about Urquidy. You randomly lose Altuve to a weird pitch in the World Baseball Classic. You randomly lose Yordan Alvarez on a whim. You lose... Why can't I think of it? Michael Brantley. You keep thinking he's going to come back, and then nothing. All the injuries this year have been shocks. It's come out of the blue and nowhere. You haven't had that in years past. You've had time to prepare. Then the player performances, players who were brought in or retained, and people might say, oh, that was a bad signing, that was a bad deal. Look at what they did last year. They're not a bad deal. You had no reason to think they were going to slow up. Look at the expected numbers last year for Montero and Abreu. You had no reason whatsoever to think, oh yeah, they're both going to fall into a void this season. The other players that haven't performed well. Tucker's regressed, which no one saw coming. People thought he was going to be a dark horse for MVP. But Tucker regressed. Bregman had a great end of the season, and hasn't been terrible this season, but hasn't been what we were expecting. Jeremy Pena is regular season Jeremy Pena, and he will not become postseason Jeremy Pena until the postseason rolls around. I hate to tell everyone. Yordan Alvarez was the monster that he always was. That didn't change. No one saw Presley falling off a cliff. No one saw that coming. It wasn't that it was, oh, they were signing guys that had 1.5 ERAs, and then you look at their FIP, and it's like 3.5, and their expected ERA is over 5. It wasn't that. It wasn't dumb moves in that respect. It was players that have been good randomly stop being good. And then I would put it on Dusty Baker. He is like the fourth line in this. I think you, with firing him, would lose the locker room. And honestly, I think you'd be doing Dusty Baker horribly dirty. Horribly dirty. Unspeakably. I think that would be that's a pass the buck move. That's you don't want to accept responsibility for the fact that you didn't do well in the offseason to prepare if you lost players. And then also on the players for not living up to where they should be. I'm sorry. You bring in Dusty Baker in the most up in the air, turmoil-filled portion in franchise history, coming off of the 2019 season where you have all the scandal break, to fire him the year after winning the World Series because you're not performing where you feel you should be, I think would just be downright insulting of the Astros. I do not think that's the move. I think at the bare minimum, to a manager who, again, last season in the postseason, masterclassed his way through to win that World Series title. He lost 2 games, guys, in the entirety of that postseason run. 2 games. I think it would be a dumb move. I think it would be downright disrespectful. You owe him at bare minimum the season. If you don't want to retain him going into 2024, that's perfectly fine. You owe him the season. And I don't even like that that's being brought up. It feels icky to me. It feels dirty to do that to Dusty Baker. But I say all that to say, I don't know how good this team is going to be. I think you're going to continue to get healthier, and that's great. That's wonderful. I think some players are going to come back and be good. That's great and wonderful. I don't know that you can do it this year. I really don't. I hope I look stupid. I hope I look like a big, silly, stupid goose. And come the end of October, the Astros are celebrating back-to-back World Series titles. That'd be awesome. That is what I really, really, really hope for. I think you have to accept the reality that the Astros this season might miss the playoffs. If you said right now, are the Astros going to make it or not, I would sit in silence for a few. I'd really think about it. I don't know. And I think a part of that is paying the penance. You've been lucky with injuries in the past. Again, you've either known they're coming or just haven't sustained them. From 2017 to 2022, all of those runs, Altuve was healthy for all of them. Springer was healthy for 4 of them until he left in free agency. Correa was healthy for all 5 of them until he left in free agency. I guess, yeah. Like, they were healthy for all of them. And then you had... Why is my brain not working? Bregman was healthy for all of them. Yuli was healthy for all of them. Fromber was healthy for all of his runs, 20 through 23, or 20 through 22. You've had your star players be healthy for the playoffs, right? You haven't, and obviously the playoffs aren't here, and they might all be healthy and perfect by the time they roll around. That'd be fan-damn-tastic. I think this season could be a little bit of the Astros paying some of their back taxes in injuries, in regression, in bad deals in the offseason. I think it could be that. You might say, well, Weston, the Astros have made some bad moves in the past few years, and I would say they're not the marquee moves, right? Immediately, if you're thinking about not wonderful moves the Astros have made in the past few seasons, one that sticks out would be, that whole Jake Odorizzi experiment that went terribly wrong. That was not a marquee move. That was a last-second, we need a pitcher, because Fromber got injured in spring training. There have not been many marquee moves that have panned out poorly for the Astros. You exchange Pena or Correa for Pena. Works out wonderfully. He wins ALCS and World Series MVP. Nearest was a name a couple of years ago. Last year. He worked out wonderful. You bring back Justin Verlander. He worked out magnificent. Won the Cy Young. Usually the moves the Astros have made in the offseason, at least the marquee ones, the noteworthy ones, not just the roster filler, have been good. They've been effective. This year, they haven't been. I think it's this season is just a bit paying penance, atoning for what you have won. And it's a bummer. It's not fun to watch. I'm not going to say that it is, because I'm not going to lie to you guys. That being said, I'm also not going to sit here and cry, oh, poor us. Because in the past 6 years, we have watched the Astros win more than some teams have won in their franchise's history. Or more than they have won in any multi-decade span. If the Astros... And that's the thing also that I want to mention, because I commented this as well in one of the posts that I just made. If they do miss the playoffs, I'm not concerned about the long-term future of this team at all. I could totally... If the Astros miss the playoffs this year, they're still a World Series contender next year in 2024. If the Astros scrape into the postseason this year, they could do so much damage. Because all the experience, all the know-how, all that, they totally could. I'm not saying the Astros are buried. I'm not saying, they're going to be below 500. They suck. They're terrible. They're the worst team on the planet. I'm not saying that by any means. But I think we should prepare ourselves for the fact they could very easily miss the playoffs this year. And you might have to think about 2024. I'm not saying they're done, but I think we have hit rock bottom, or in my case, in this room, the floor. So the Astros play again tomorrow. I think I've said my piece. I barely even talked about this game. There was nothing to talk about. You want to know what it was? It was Hunter Brown got killed, and then they brought in poor old Dubbin, who they just brought over, making his major league debut. That poor, poor man who got just put on the vine to die. Great first inning. Great first inning, man. You feel bad for him. You really do. He ends up giving up like 5 runs in this night. Stanek looked solid in his 1 out. That was the game. It was just the Mets killed him. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a pitcher's duel for a while. Funny that Prime Scherzer randomly showed up today. The Justin Verlander perfecto tomorrow is going to be funny to watch. I'll say that. But that leads me to it. The Astros play again tomorrow, 8:10 Eastern, 7:10 Central. The Astros send Framber Valdez to the mound, and the Mets send old friend Justin Verlander to the mound. That'll be an emotional one, folks. And I'll be here afterwards to talk about it, but as for right now, that's all I have to say. So if you enjoyed the video, and if this was cathartic for you in any way and helped ease a little bit of it, please consider to like and subscribe. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and as always, go Astros.